Hello, parents. Welcome to the Masterful Parenting Podcast. I'm Anne Alvares, parent coach, school counselor, and mother of two. Do you sometimes struggle with your parenting role? Do you notice that sometimes you're repeating patterns that you learned in your own childhood? Maybe you are carrying childhood pain that has not been healed, and you notice that it is showing up in your parenting with your own children. Perhaps you yell or get frustrated easily. Maybe you are directing them or telling them what to do all the time, and you notice that your actions are affecting your relationship with your children. Well, parents, I totally understand this. I came from childhood pain and I learned how to be a relational parent with my children. And I can teach this to you as well. This podcast is all about learning how to heal the childhood pain that we are carrying so that we can foster healthy relationships with our kids. Join us every week for a new show, and we will dive into the healing and the fostering of healthy relationships with our children. Hello, parents. Today we have a very special episode on the Masterful Parenting Show and podcast. Because for the month of February, I said to parents, you can ask me anything you want to, and I will answer all of your questions for free. This is me giving you some love, parents, and I just want to help you as much as I can help you. So I did get some really great questions. Some are really tough. So I'm going to go through the questions today. I'll try to get through as many as I can, and I may have to do a part two of this episode. All right, so the first question is, how do I build connection with my teenage son if we have been estranged for many years? Now, this is a common problem that we have in my high school, where I'm a school counselor. There's a lot of teenagers that have been away from their parents, or their parents traveled abroad to work to make a better future for them. But as a result, they were not there for their children. And so grandparents or aunties or uncles looked after their child while they worked abroad. And it has caused a lot of problems, a lot of disengagement, because then mom says, I'm ready 7, 8 years later for you to come into my life, and I want to bring you to wherever it is, Canada, US, wherever they're living. And then the child doesn't really know parent. So it's been a problem because I'll tell you, parents, the prime years for connection, to build connection with our kids and to foster safety, to foster security, is 0 to 8. 0 to 8 are really the prime years in our kids' development for attachment to their parents. So if you are away during that time, that is going to leave marks, imprints, um, messaging that may not be good for our kids. So it's unfortunate that this is happening. And I understand that uh, parents are trying to make things better for their kids, but there is a cost. And the cost is that connection piece with your child was not fostered. If you are there from 0 to 8, it's better than leaving when they're that little, when they're 0 to 8, because those are really those prime years for connection. Okay, so we can't beat ourselves up. If this is your story, if you have been estranged from your child, you made that decision because you thought it was the best decision at the time to help your family, right? To provide a future for your family, then we can't hold on to regret and guilt. We have to let that go and understand that we did what we did during that time because that's what we knew or we thought was the best thing. But now we're here and we have a teenage son and he's not listening. And it's really hard to connect with him because I don't know him. All right. If this is your story, I'm going to give you some tips. The first thing is we are going to really, really take time. Time that we have is going to be impactful. So it's going to be good. So whenever you are with your child, whenever you're with your son, you need to give positive encouragement, feedback, love. Um, do things for your son to show love. Tell your son, how about like a heart to heart conversation with, I regret not being in your life and I'm sorry about it, right? Because the child needs to hear that, from their parent. It'll help them because sometimes kids have messaging. They have an internal dialogue in their heads. They tell themselves a story when things have happened to them. I know this because I'm a school counselor and I hear kids' stories, like what they told themselves when they were little. And if they didn't have a parent around, they may have told themselves that I wasn't wanted, I wasn't loved, right? And we want to make sure that they don't carry that messaging around. We want to make sure that we correct that and say, no, it's because I love you. And that's why I left, because I wanted a good future for you. And have that dialogue with your teenager. Okay. And then we're going to foster connection by spending quality time. And that means we're going to find out what our child likes. We're going to find out what his interests are. And we're going to make time to do those things that he enjoys. This is fostering connection. Like I shared, I have two boys and they both love basketball. My youngest is really, really into basketball. He joined the team. He's 14 and he really enjoyed it. So every weekend, like every Sunday, is our time where we go out and we shoot hoops together. And he teaches me how to play basketball. It's really awesome. Now, I am not a basketball player. It is not my passion. Like I enjoy watching it, but it's not something that I'm really passionate about. But I do it because I know he loves it. And it is something that we can do together that is bonding time. And it makes him feel good that I'm trying. He knows I'm not great, but it makes him feel good that he can instruct me and that he can teach me something. And and it is really, really fun. So I encourage you parents to do things with your children that they enjoy because that is going to be good bonding time for you. So that's an opportunity for connection. And don't give up. Even though you lost 8 years, you can make it up. There is hope to make up that time with your children. You just have to be conscious that I'm going to make every moment count. I'm going to really try to make up for those 8 years by giving a lot of encouragement and a lot of love. And you still have to have structure and you still have to have values, but you're going to feed the emotional bank account. That's what I call it, feeding the emotional bank account with our children every day. So every day they're hearing lots of positive things about them, and we're only requesting things 10% of the time. 90% of the time is feeding the emotional bank account, and 10% of the time is we're requesting something. Do you think that you could help with the dishes, or can you help mom with cooking? Right? Whatever we need, we ask them 10% of the time. 90% of the time, we are going to feed that emotional bank account because that is how we get connection with our children. Okay. Number two is why won't my child listen to me? A lot of times children don't listen to us because we talk too much. Honestly, like if we're doing all the talking, that's not communication. And the method that I use is questioning. Because when you question, you're inviting conversation and it feels better than telling. So, um, if you're saying it's time for dinner, can you come downstairs now? Right? You're asking a question instead of it's time for dinner, come down right now. It doesn't feel as good, right? Whereas you're trying to invite. Whenever we are requesting, we should try to frame it in a question format, especially with teenagers, because they like to be asked because they're growing up and they don't want to be told what to do all the time. They won't listen to us if we're constantly directing them, right? Because that's very controlling behavior. It's actually not healthy either. Um, you don't want somebody telling you what to do all the time because then you feel powerless. You feel like you have no control. It actually can cause anxiety when you have overly controlling, directing parents. So, my strategy is use it as a question, ask it as a question. Do you think you can come to dinner now? Uh, do you think you can have your shower now? I do that with my kids all the time, and they respond. They respond because it's a question. I'm inviting, right? So that's a really good strategy is to frame it into a question rather than a direction. Okay. Why does my child lie, and how do I stop this? All right. Kids lie when there's many reasons why kids lie. Okay? So, and I know a lot because of working with teenagers for over 15 years. Kids lie when they don't feel safe with their parents. They don't think their parents can handle the truth because maybe they overreact or will get mad or they will punish me if they find out. Um, they lie when they're doing something they know is not right and they know their parents are not going to be able to handle it. Okay. So our job as parents is to create a safe environment, uh, a messaging that no matter what you do, I'm going to love you. You can mess up, you can make mistakes, you can make wrong decisions, but I'm still going to love you. And you can come to me when there's a problem, all right? Because our kids will not come to us when there's a problem if they do not feel safe. They need to feel safety. We need to be that safe place for them. I did a post recently talking about we need to be the oak tree, right? That that an oak tree is strong. An oak tree is sturdy. An oak tree can withstand an enormous storm. And when our kids are storming, tantruming, crying, arguing, when they're fighting us, when they're swearing, when they're showing emotion, like strong emotion, we have to be the oak tree. So we're still, we're steady, we're sturdy. We're showing our children that we can handle it. You can get emotional, you can get mad. I'm going to wait till you calm down and we're going to handle this problem because we can handle anything, right? Uh, I'm your ally. I'm the person you can rely on for help. So you don't need to worry. You can just tell me because I'm an oak tree, right? That's what we want to create with our children, that messaging that we can handle anything. Because when we give that messaging, they're going to talk to us. They're going to tell us if someone bullied them. They're going to tell us if they didn't do well on a test. They're going to invite us to help them. But if we overreact, get angry, punish them, we're creating unsafety, right? We're creating an unsafe environment, which encourages lying because my mom can't handle it. My dad can't handle it. So I'm not going to tell them. That's what happens. All right. That was question 3. Question 4. Why doesn't my teenager talk to me anymore? Okay. I've been through the teenage years with my oldest. He's 24. And I have a teenager currently. He's 14. And I also deal with teens every day. So, and I have for over 15 years, as I said, as a school counselor. So I understand this. And I've had students that won't talk when I'm trying to counsel them. Okay. So the number one thing is we never force anyone to talk because that's not healthy. Uh, there's an invitation to talk. But if they don't feel safe, if your child does not feel safe to talk or isn't ready because they're still processing what happened, then we give them that time. But we invite again. Do you want to talk about it now, honey? Is it okay to talk about it now? Right? We don't force because forcing is unhealthy. A lot of us grew up with being forced, being controlled. And I will tell you, parents, the way we were brought up was not healthy. Like we're learning now that being controlled, being forced to do things is actually not good. It's not healthy for us because then we learn um, and attract unhealthy relationships in our adult lives. And so we have to change that with our own children. That means we're going to listen to them. We're going to model healthy behavior, right? And the 3 components of healthy behavior uh, to feel seen, to feel heard, and to feel supported. And that's what we're going to give our children so that they understand this is what's healthy. And I want you to attract healthy relationships in your adult life, not be involved in unhealthy relationships that damage you. Okay, so your child won't talk to you. There's a reason. Uh, and that means there's a connection that's broken for whatever reason. So we have to, first of all, we have to be self-aware. Okay, why isn't my child not talking to me? Have I made him or her feel unsafe? Have there been times when I haven't really listened and I just, told them what I think, them to follow what I think, and not really listening to them because that's going to close conversation if you're not feeling heard. So you need to feel heard. You need to feel seen. And then you need to feel supported, like your ideas matter. Like we want to try and make it happen for you if that's what you want. That's the messaging we want to give our children so that they feel um, supported and loved. Okay, that is why they don't talk. If our children feel supported, heard, seen, supported, they will talk. They will talk to us. But if there's connection that's broken, there's something we've done to break connection, then we need to repair it. And we repair it by apologizing. We say, I'm sorry, honey. Like maybe mommy didn't listen to you, or mom didn't listen to you, dad didn't listen to you. But I'm going to try hard to listen now. Tell me again what happened, what was going on, right? This is the conversation we have with our children. We're inviting them to tell us so that we can get into their heads to understand them better what they're experiencing. Because if we don't understand that, we can't really help them. So that's why conversation is so, so important. Okay, number 5 is about anxiety. Now, I'm going to tell you, parents, anxiety is the number one thing that I deal with teenagers in my school counseling job. And I've been very successful with kids with anxiety because I have anxiety, right, at times. And I want us to normalize anxiety because I think like when we find out our kids are anxious, then we get anxious and we worry, and that makes it worse, right? The first thing I do when I'm working with kids is I tell them that it's normal. You know what? It's normal. It's normal to feel anxiety. Everyone has felt anxiety at some time in their life. You get nervous when you have a test, when you're learning something new, um, when you don't feel safe. Like it's normal. Anxiety is not a bad thing. The, the problem is that we can't get over the fear. If the fear consumes us and stops us from living, that's when there's a problem. But feeling the anxiety, feeling the fear, that's not a problem. You can feel the fear. And we're going to talk about like why. We're going to talk about what is causing it. What is causing the anxiety? Is it school? Is it your friends? Is it something that mom and dad have done? What is it that is causing the anxiety? And sometimes our kids can tell us, like, they'll be like, oh, yeah, I feel really uncomfortable in math class because I don't understand the math. Okay, perfect. Thank you. That's awesome. Now we know that math class is causing you anxiety. All right, let's figure out how we can work through it and help you through it. What do you think would help? Okay, so the reason I ask kids is because when you have anxiety, you feel like you have no control. That's part of the problem with anxiety is that you feel out of control. You feel victimhood, and you don't know uh, how to move forward from that. But if you invite conversation, if you ask, if you involve the person with anxiety in the problem solving, then they feel like they have more control. And I always say to my kids that I'm working with, I say, you're the boss. You tell me. Your feelings are going to tell us how we're going to move. But we are going to move. We're going to take action because you don't get better if you don't take action. I say it that directly. I say, you don't get better unless we take action. Like we don't have to take big steps though. We can take like tiny, tiny steps. Okay. But you're going to tell me what steps are you ready for? So right now, you don't feel like you can go to math class. That's okay. You don't have to. You see, like, and then whenever I tell kids that, they're just like their anxiety is like, oh, it's awesome. I don't have to go to math class. It's taking my anxiety away. But I say this is what I say. So, but you have to come see me. We have to work through it. We have to work through the anxiety. Um, so I'm going to give you tools to work through the fear. Okay? And then we're going to get you help. And then eventually, as you feel stronger and stronger, we're going to take time and go to class, maybe not the full class, maybe just 10 minutes, and we'll see how you're doing. Okay, how does that sound? Is that a good plan? And again, I'm asking. Why? Because the anxious child does not feel like they have any control. We got to give them control, right? And that's how I've been really successful with kids with anxiety is I work through them. So as a parent, I mean, my youngest, he's pretty sensitive and he has anxiety sometimes. And so this is kind of where I work with him too. I work with him about his thinking about it. Okay, tell me what you're thinking. That's another thing you can do with your children. Tell me what you're thinking about this, about the math or whatever you're afraid of. Tell me what you're thinking. And if they can articulate, oh, I'm thinking that I'm going to fail or everybody's going to look at me. Let's say they have an oral presentation. Everybody's going to look at me. Okay. So if everybody looks at you, how is that going to make you feel? Is that it? Is that going to be a problem for you? Yeah, yeah, because I'm self-conscious. Okay, okay. What do you think they're going to do? Like, if they look at you, what's the worst thing that could happen? You know? And then you share, they like let them share. Don't judge them. Just say, okay, yeah, okay, I get it. I understand why you feel that way. Right? What's going to make it better? I know you don't want to do it, but That's not going to be better for your life because we have to move through the fear. But what do you think is going to make it better? And then let your child be part of this problem solving. Okay. And if they say, I don't know, say it's okay. It's all right if you don't know. We can figure it out together. And then you can say, do you think that if you practice the oral presentation with me, that would give you confidence? Do you think that if we got a tutor in math, that would make you feel less anxious? So that's when you can offer suggestions if they're not sure. All right. And then see what they say. Okay, so like we're always listening. This is relational parenting. Sorry, parents, this is what I'm passionate about because I know it works. It works with my students. It works with my own children. It works in friendships, in marriages. Being relational is about inviting uh, people to share how they really feel and then working on the solution together. Okay, that's what we're modeling, and that's so healthy. So, so healthy. Okay. So that's how I deal with anxiety. We're going to remove the anxiety if it's really severe. We're going to not make them do it. But then we're going to have a conversation of a plan to take the baby steps, right? We're going to let them feel the fear. We're going to say, yeah, and we're going to empathize. We're going to say, yeah, that is scary. And then we're going to invite them into the problem solving of it. Okay. But again, we're not forcing. We are not forcing. The only thing is like if a child is not coming to school, if you have a son or daughter that's not coming to school because their anxiety is so bad, then parents, I would advise like just to get them checked by the doctor because there could be, I've had students that have had low iron and that affects mood. So if they, nutritionally, if they are missing something, they're going to be tired and moody, right? And sometimes we do miss nutrition in the teen years because we're growing so quickly and they need to be eating properly. So get your child checked out for that. And then if you can rule that out, then you can say, I know you want to stay in bed all day and you don't want to go to school, honey, but how does that help you in your life? Like not going to school, is that good for your future? And they're going to know, they're going to be like, no, it's not. Okay. So how about we do this? How about I bring you to talk to the counselor? We can talk to the counselor together about what's happening, why you don't want to go to school. What do you think of that? Right? So we're moving our children into action. Okay. We can't let them just fall apart and not do anything. That is not our job as parents. Our job as parents is to always be moving them to things that are good for them, that's going to help them in their lives. So we can't give up on them if they're struggling. And we don't allow them to give up on themselves. We are their support. We are their help. Okay. So I hope that helps a lot with the anxiety piece. We could do a whole show on anxiety. Because there is like the other thing too is there are methods of dealing with anxiety because you have signals the anxiety is coming, right? You might have heart palpitations or you might be like shaking. I have a student that shakes. Um, your body's going to tell you you're feeling anxious. And you can ask your child, okay, so what's happening in your body when you're feeling these feelings? And I can tell you. And you can say, okay, those are the warning signs that you're feeling anxious or you're going to have a panic attack or something. So we listen to the body. Okay. Now, sometimes breathing works. So sometimes I'll do deep breathing with my students. I'll say, okay, let's breathe. Let's take 3 deep breaths and we're going to blow out we're going to take a deep breath for 5, and then we're going to blow out for 10 seconds, something like that. So we'll go through just relaxing the body so that we're not in that state, right? Um, but sometimes it doesn't work. Sometimes kids are like, I don't like deep breathing, which is totally fine. Like if it's not working, then we're going to try a different method. So I also use stress balls, like squeezy balls. Um, or I use something like a toy, something that they can maneuver, or a puzzle or something like that. Like I do have like fidget toys in my office. I use that with kids with severe anxiety. And that seems to help them because now they're getting out of their head and they're getting into their hands and they're focusing on uh, working on their hands and getting out of the thoughts that are creating anxiety. Remember, our thoughts create anxiety. What we are thinking is creating the anxiety, right? But remember, our thoughts are not real and we can change them at any time. So we just have to work on, okay, this is what I'm thinking, this is what I'm feeling. Um, and maybe I can think about it in a different way. So that's the other piece that I work on with kids with anxiety is just helping them to think of things in a different way, right? Don't think of it as something that's scary, but think of it as something that's challenging, that it's something that's going to help you grow. Um, what kind of person do you want to be? Like, what kind of adult do you want to be? Right? Do you want to be a confident adult? This is one step in that direction. So that's another conversation you can have with your child, like, how do you want to be? And we can move through that to make you be that person, right? That you already have it in you. You just have to work through these bumps. Okay. So that really is the anxiety piece of this. Okay. And the last question I'm gonna do for today, and then I'm gonna save the rest of the questions for a part two. What if my kids won't help out with chores? Okay. I find a lot of parents are very concerned about getting their kids to do things. I grew up, so I do have a little bit of a bias here. I will be honest. I grew up feeling like I was the maid. My mom, she grew up in the Philippines, and she had maids, and so she was used to ordering maids around to do things for her. And then when we moved to Canada, um, my mom didn't have a maid anymore. And so she put on a lot of chores on me as a young age, in a young age. Uh, and now I understand that that actually is parentification. Parentification is when we, as parents, are putting on too much onto our kids and giving them a parent role instead of a kid's role. Okay. And by too much, I mean I did a lot and she didn't do much. So like cleaning the bathrooms, dusting, but she wasn't involved in any of that and in prepping the food and washing the dishes. Like I had a lot of chores. So my worry is, parents, is that are we parentifying our kids by expecting too much because they're a kid. They should be a kid. And our job is to serve our kids. Our job is to help them. We're supposed to teach them things. They need to know how to do things so that when they leave home, they know how to do laundry, they know how to cook, they know the basics. But we're not piling on chores for them to do so we can relax. You know what I'm saying? So that's what we have to be really, really careful with because then that just builds resentment and that does not build connection with your children. And we need to listen to them too. Like if the chore is too much or they're tired or whatever's going on with them, we need to find out as well. So I say to parents this: let's not put the emphasis on getting our kids to do things, and let's just work on having a good relationship with them. I will tell you, I don't get my kids to do a lot of chores. but I really spend time connecting and building relationship with them, feeding the emotional bank account. So when I do need something done, my kids do it happily. They never say no, never. Why? Because I'm not abusing them and I'm not demanding so much, but I invite them to help me. And they want to, right? Um, and my oldest, he does what he can. He works a lot. He works 10-hour days. So I don't put too much on him, but he will wash the dishes. If the dishes are dirty, he'll wash them. He'll make a meal once in a while. Uh, and he shares his food, you know. So like I'm not worried about him growing up and not being able to do these things because he will be able to. But when we focus on the relationship first, building the connection, building the relationship, feeding the emotional bank account, we're not going to have fights about chores. We're going to be able to work this out peacefully. Do you think you could? And then again, I said I'm a relational parent, so we're gonna have a question. We're gonna be like, do you think you could do the dishes tonight because mom's got to work late? Or do you mind vacuuming? I did this. I want my kids to know I'm doing things. So do you think you could help out with this, right? Because my experience was my mom didn't do it and I did everything. And so then I was resentful. So I want my kids to know that, okay, so mom washed, cleaned the bathrooms and dusted. Do you think you can vacuum? Right? My son never says no, never. Okay. And the youngest, I don't put a lot on. I do tell him like, bring your dishes to the sink, things like that, right? Because he's got school. I want him to be a kid. I want him to enjoy his childhood, and not have too much. But as he gets older, I'm going to ask a little bit more, right? Can you help out more with this? So, but you know your child and you know your own upbringing. I don't want to tell you parents like don't ask them to do chores. Like, no, I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying, ask yourself, is it too much? If your child is saying it's too much, maybe listen. How come it's too much, honey? Why? Um, because I do believe in a good work ethic too, right? But my oldest has a really good work ethic, and I didn't make him do a lot of chores. So, when you have the relationship first, when you're building relationship first, you're going to get compliance. So that's the lesson is work on the relationship and then you're going to get buy-in and not have a fight with your kids. That's so, so, so important because we want peace, right? We want compliance. And we do that by treating the emotional bank account with our kids. I'm going to tell you, parents, it works. It's worked with both of my children. It works with the teenagers I work with. We build relationship, and then they want to hear, what do you have to say, Mom? What do you think? They'll actually ask us, what do you think? Um, and then we know that we have connection with them. All right, parents, I hope the show has been good and valuable for you. I'm so excited about these questions. I have 6 more to go, and I will do that on part 2 of your questions. And feel free to send me more questions. I love answering questions. All right, thank you so much, parents. Take care. You know I love you. Bye. Hello, parents. Welcome to part 2 of parent questions. All right, we went through 6 questions last episode, and today we're going to go through 6 more. Okay, so question number 7. If my teenage son is doing homework with his friend who is a girl and they are alone together, what should I do? Okay, so I guess if you are afraid that something is going to happen, like I think you have to ask yourself, what am I worried about? Am I worried that my son is going to have unprotected sex because they're alone and the temptation is, why when you're alone? Um, if he says that he's attracted to her, that's possible, right? Again, I'm going to say parents, we have to have these hard conversations with our children if we are worried, right? They need to know that we're worried and they need to know what we're thinking also. And then we need to know what they're thinking as well. So, um, I would say to my son, honey, I'm kind of worried that you're alone with this girl. Uh, should I be worried about that? Is that something I should worry about? And he might say, well, mom, what's the problem? And you might say, well, I just don't want you to have temptations. Like, I don't want you to have unprotected sex. Maybe I think you're too young to have sex. And then he's like, oh, mom, like, don't talk to me about that. Then we know nothing's going to happen. Or if he says, you don't need to worry about that, then we have to trust our children, right? Have the conversation uh, from a place of love that you're concerned, but then you have to listen and trust him. We trust until we're proven that they can't be trusted. That's what we do. Okay, so we express concern. I love you. I don't want you to do something that you might regret later. I want to make sure that you're safe, that you're not giving into temptations. Do I need to worry about that, honey? See, that is the conversation I would have with my children. And then their answers will tell you, if you need to worry or not. Okay, so we need to trust them until they prove us otherwise. Like if you catch your teenager at home alone with his girlfriend and you didn't consent to them being there alone, then you have to have that conversation too. You have to say, honey, um, this is my home and I don't want you to bring your girlfriend here when I'm not home. Okay. And have boundaries. You have to have boundaries, right? If you have values, you have to stick to your values, but you explain to your child what the value is, why you have that value, so that they understand. And if you have been feeding the emotional bank account, like I have been talking about many, many times, then your child is going to listen to you because he or she knows you're coming from a place of caring and not to be punitive or judgmental. All right. Okay. Question 8. How do I talk to my child about sex? Okay, so it just depends on what age they are. Because you can start talking to them about reproduction and sex when they're little, right? You can say, okay, like give the birds and the bees story, right? Like, do you know how life is created? And explain it that way, or you could even get a science video on it. If you feel that they're curious about it, they want to know, then you can start that, right? Learning it together. Now, if they're older and they have had the sex talk at school, like both of my kids had their sex talk at school. So then they kind of have had it. And so as a parent, you could say, oh, you had the sex talk at school. How did that go? Do you have any questions? Is there anything you want me to answer? And they'll be like, no, mom, it's okay. Um, my oldest, he actually did tell me, he felt very comfortable telling me about the sex talk. And we had actually a little joke about it. Ugh, it's so funny. Uh, so he was like, Mom, like I knew everything because I actually did get some science books and things. So he understood reproduction. He got that. But he was so funny when he was in elementary school. After the talk, he said, yeah, I didn't know what the testicles were for. I said to him, honey, did you think they were just for decoration? They actually serve a purpose. So we had a good joke about it. It's a good memory from me. But don't be afraid to have the talk. If they're ready and they want to know, then you can be honest with them, right? Because better it come from you then from their friends that might give them wrong information. So yeah, the sex talk, it happens at schools. Uh, but if you're worried that they don't know everything or they don't know what they need to know, 'cause they don't need to know everything. But if they don't know what they need to know, then you can say, do you need me to explain anything? Is there anything that you didn't understand, or do you have any questions about it? Right? And just open the dialogue that way. Okay. Number 9. What should I do if my ex doesn't follow through on things that he needs to do for our son? Okay, I'm just going to say, parents, I have an ex. Okay. I think I've been like very clear about the separation that happened a couple years ago, 2021, and it was really difficult. It was hard on me, but I made a decision that I was not going to burden my children with my struggle because I was struggling with it. Um, and I really, really tried to show them a strong mom. Like, I can handle this. This is going to be okay. We're going to be okay. We're still a family. Everything's going to be fine. But privately, I did get help. I did talk to people that I needed to, friends. I had some really good friends and family that supported me through that difficult time. And that's the thing, parents, we need to remember that our kids are kids. They feel our emotions and our struggle. And because of that, we have to be so mindful of what we're putting out. If we can put out strength and confidence and resilience, that teaches them that you can go through struggle with that. Uh, because what we don't want is we don't want to have a breakdown in front of them. And then they feel like they have to take care of us. Because that's parentification, parents. Parentification is when our children worry about us because we can't handle things, because we've broken down. Um, if we are in a struggle, then we have to get help for ourselves, and we cannot lean on our children for support. We have to get support from adults so that our children are not parentified in carrying our burdens. So, um, okay, so back to the spouse, back to the ex, I should say. Okay, we don't have control over the ex. Whatever the ex does in his or her house, that's what they choose to do. Whatever we do in our house is what we choose to do. And if the ex is not following through, this is the way I think of it. I think I'm going to do whatever is best for my child. And if I need to do it because my ex isn't following through, then I will do it. So whatever is best for the child is what you do. And you don't worry about the ex because you can't change the ex, right? You can't. So you just think about your child and what does your child need? What does your child need to happen? What does your child need to do? Focus on your child and not the ex. And you really, really, really have to work on not carrying bitterness or anger. Um, I know it's hard. It is hard, especially if you've been mistreated. Wow. I totally understand that. But here's the thing. When we are carrying bitterness, anger towards our child's parent, that's not good for our child. And it's not good for us because our child loves their parents, both parents. Our children love us. So we don't want to put anything negative out there about the parent that they love, right? The parents, because they love both of you. So I make it I really make an effort not to say anything negative and just be supportive, and be the safe place if my son does need to vent about something. But I really am mindful of my words, that I'm not giving a messaging, a negative messaging about his dad. Okay. So, and I focus on the positive things, the great things that are going on with his dad, because there are great things, they're trying, right? So, that has to be acknowledged as well. We're not perfect. None of us are perfect. Like, we have to be very forgiving of each other because it's not easy. It's not easy being a parent, and it's definitely not easy being a single parent. So we need to have compassion for ourselves and for the co-parent, right? Okay. So moral of the story, do what's best for your child. That's how you know what to do. Okay. Okay, number 10 is I'm going through a separation. How do I help my children with this transition? Okay, I did share like I just made a decision that okay, so I asked myself a question. I said, what do I want my children to see? How do I want my children to remember this time in our lives? And I decided that I wanted my kids to see a resilient, strong, confident mother that could handle it. And so I made every effort to be that mother, even though inside I was struggling. I did struggle a lot. I prayed a lot. Um, like the first year was the hardest. I think many of you can relate to that. Like the first year of a separation or a breakdown of a marriage, uh, is really tough. So I leaned into my friends, but with my kids, I said, we're a family. We're going to do things together. I'm going to support you. I'm going to give you hope, right? That's my job, to give us hope that our lives are still going to be good, even though the way our family looks right now is not the same as it was. And I think that has helped a lot. My kids actually have thrived through it. Neither of them really struggled. And as I said, I made a real conscious effort not to talk badly about my ex. So that helped. So the transition is take care of yourself, parent, moms. I'm a mom, so I can relate. Take care of yourself and dads too. Because when you take care of yourself, then you're going to be better for your kids. And when you are struggling, it's so important, even more so, to have self-care, right? To focus on what makes you happy, to remember the times, to to go make a bucket list. That's what I did. I made a bucket list of what do I want to do? Or now my life looks different. What do I still want to do with my life? And you can turn it into a great transformation, right? You can be the butterfly coming out of the cocoon at the end of it all. And that's what I hope for you parents, because that is really what has happened with me. I went through a transformation. Um, and yeah, I'm proud of myself for that. So I want you to be proud of you and to go through the transformation. Get counseling, get support. Like I'm fortunate. I have counselor friends, so I can call on them anytime and they can give me counseling. And I'm a counselor, right? So I have a lot of counseling friends. But if you need professional support, like if you need to process the relationship that you lost, then do it. Do whatever is going to help you. to heal and to get better. That's my suggestion, because then you'll be good for your kids. Your kids will be so happy that their mom is thriving. All right. Number 11. My husband and I did not agree on how to discipline our daughter. What should we do? Okay, so parents are not always on the same page. Like, I have worked with parents who are not on the same page of how they should deal with their teenager, let's say. And so I'll meet with both parents and I will listen to uh, each side, right? And my job isn't to take sides. My job is to advocate for the child, right? Because that's who we need to advocate for. So when I'm working with parents that don't agree, then what I say is, we're going to focus on your son or your daughter. Let's focus on your child. What do you think is going to help? Right? Uh, is punishment going to help? Do you think your son or daughter is going to turn around if you punish them? Because you're controlling. You're controlling them. They might say yes, but then inside they're going to be upset and angry, right? And I'm a relational parent, so we're going to focus on the relationship. So mom and dad, even though you don't agree, both of you are going to work on your relationship with your child. And then I tell them how to do that, right? I say, every day you need to find a way to connect. So you're going to give positive affirmation to your child every day. Like every day, parents, we need to be feeding the emotional bank account, right? So happy to see you. How was school? I love you. When they do something that you're proud of, tell them. When they uh, when they share something, say thank you for sharing that. I'm so happy you shared that. That's a great story. These are things we do to connect with our children, and it has to be daily because you're feeding that account, right? That emotional bank account, so that when you have a request, then they're going to be open to it because they've been filled up by your love. All right. So uh, you can do a withdrawal, you can, and if you make a mistake, and I've made many mistakes, right? Especially with my oldest, they're forgiving of you because you have been feeding that emotional bank account with them. So they feel loved. So when you make a mistake, like you lost your temper or you overreacted about something, then they will understand because you have fed that emotional bank account, right? So that's why it's so important. Well, if there is one thing you can get on the same page about, it is that you're working on your relationship with your child. That is going to make the difference in how you parent. That honestly, it is powerful. When you have a strong relationship with your children, you can impact them in a big way. Okay? And you can fill them up and help them to feel confident. Uh, when we don't focus on the relationship and we focus on their behavior and controlling them and making them do things, that does not build confidence. And it can lead to them being very sneaky about things or lying. And we don't want that. It's not a good relationship. Someone that's being sneaky or lying to you. So that's why that's why we have to focus on connecting with our kids and feeding it emotional bank account. Okay. I don't want to yell at my kids, but I can't stop. Help me. Okay, it's hard. It's hard because maybe you grew up with yelling. Maybe your parents yelled at you. Maybe that is your first go-to when you're angry or you don't know what to do or your kid's not listening to you. Um, I know I grew up with yelling parents. it affected me. Like I didn't have confidence. I actually still get scared when someone's yelling. I start to, shake, and it's like I'm that 6-year-old again. So it's traumatizing. And first of all, we need to be aware that we're yelling or that we're behaving that way. We're behaving in an unhealthy way. Okay. So right off the bat, yelling is unhealthy. Okay. It does damage to our children. That's why we have to stop it. So what is leading to the yelling? You have to ask yourself, you have to say, okay, why? Why am I yelling? Am I yelling because I'm frustrated? Am I yelling because I'm not taking care of myself? Am I yelling because um, I don't know how to communicate with my child? Am I yelling because I'm personalizing my child's behavior because I think they're being disrespectful? Like, these are the questions you got to ask yourself. And then you have to make a commitment that you're going to work on it. I'm going to work on changing that because I know it's not healthy and it's actually damaging to my children. So maybe I'm going to meditate. Maybe when I start to feel that anger in my body, because we feel it in our body first, right? Before we react. We feel tense, our tightening of muscles, maybe our heart's beating really fast, maybe our stomach's hurting. Like there's physical signs that you are emotionally uncontrolled. So when we have those signs, we got to recognize that sign is happening. I'm not as patient as I normally am. Then we need to take a time out for ourselves. We need to say, okay, I need to leave. And you can say to your child, so I don't want to get angry, so I am going to leave right now. And when I'm calm, or when we're both calm, I want us to talk. But I can't talk right now because I'm too upset. I think that's okay. Like that's a good boundary to have. And that's also teaching your children how to regulate their emotions. They know they can take a time out, right? And leave and try to regulate again, try to get their emotions in check. Here's the thing. When our emotions are heightened, when we are in this heightened state of upset, we cannot think logically, right? Because the amygdala is overactive. And with teenagers, their amygdala is normally overactive. That's why they're very reactional, right? It is part of their brain chemistry right now. And they'll grow out of it, but that is probably why they're triggering you, and they don't mean to. So don't personalize it. Understand that your children, this is a normal part of the teenage development. And we as parents have to be more patient with them, more understanding, right? Because they're not doing it on purpose. They're not doing it to hurt us. This is a brain chemistry thing that's happening with them, right? And I know this because of like being a counselor for over 15 years, working with teens, studying brain science. I've done a few workshops on brain science to understand what is happening. Okay, but the emotions, if your emotions are heightened, you cannot think logically. It is the worst time to make decisions. It is the worst time to try to problem solve because you will not problem solve. You just want to take revenge, right? Or hit something, or get mad, or hurt someone, or hurt yourself. So it is not the time for problem solving. The time for problem solving is when you're calm. So you have to get yourself in that calm state, in that peaceful state, quiet the brain down so you can think logically about what's happening. Okay? Don't respond or don't react so that later on you can respond in a loving way to your kids. I know it's tough. but you'll get better and better at it the more you stop yourself. Like you feel it coming on, gotta stop. I need to stop this right now. I don't want to cause damage to my child. I don't want to wreck relationship with my child, but I'm angry right now, so I need to leave. And that's okay. Okay, so you leave. You do your deep breaths, you go for a walk, you get yourself regulated. Okay? And then once you're calm, when your child's calm, because your child has to be calm too, then you have the conversation, right? With whatever was bothering you. And I say, when you're having the conversation with your children, you should always start with a feeling statement to bring empathy, right? To bring connection. So I like to say, honey, I love you very much. Honey, I care about you. Okay. I like to say that. Um, I didn't hear it as a kid. And so it's really important for me, that my children hear that I love them. So I really make an effort to tell them often, but especially when we've had a conflict, I'm going to remind them that I love them. Okay, because I'm telling them about unconditional love. And unconditional love is I love you even in your worst moments. That is unconditional love. That is how our children need to be loved unconditionally. All right. So honey, I love you very much. And I don't like us arguing, having disagreements. So let's talk about it. Okay. And then you can say, what was happening? Why? Why did you do that? Why did you break the phone? Why did you hit your brother? Why did you swear at me? What was going on? And then you listen and you listen without judgment because you're trying to get into your child's head. You're trying to figure out what were they thinking about? Okay. And they will tell you if they feel safe, if you're not judging them, if you're not interrupting them, they will tell you. We just have to be quiet. Okay. I know our tendency is to say things because that's how we grew up, right? Our parents just told us things, lectured us for a long time. Um, and it wasn't helpful because we didn't get a chance to talk. But we need our children to talk because that's healthy and that it helps them and it helps us understand what they need. Okay, so let them tell the story. I was so angry because you did this, or little brother did this. And then you say, okay, I understand why you're angry now. I totally get it. But do you think that was the best way to deal with your anger? See, you're problem solving now, and you're getting them to think. You're like, was that the best way for you to deal with your anger? Do you think there'd be a better way to do that? And then they can say to you, yeah, maybe I could have done this instead, right? Now they're thinking about their actions. And the next time it happens, they'll be thinking about that. Oh, yeah, I could do this instead. I'm starting to get angry. This is what I can do instead, right? We model it and then we open up the conversation with them so they understand there's other ways to deal with things. Okay. And then you can talk about what's a healthy relationship. I think this is so important. With my teenagers today at school, I did a session on healthy relationships because I do think it's so important to learn because we didn't learn it. At least I didn't learn it as a kid. It wasn't modeled to me. Maybe my parents didn't know what it was. I'm pretty sure my parents didn't know what a healthy relationship was. So I only learned it as an adult, but I'm passionate about teaching this to kids and to adults, to parents. So we need to feel okay, these are the three components of a healthy relationship. You need all three. Even if one is missing, it's not healthy. All right. And this is for all relationships. This is for marriages. This is for workplace. This is for relationships in your family, and this is definitely for our kids. So the first one is to feel seen. That means that you're not ignored. Like I get very worried about parents that they ignore bad behavior, right? They're like, I'm just going to ignore it. I'm just going to ignore it. Your kid is whining, complaining. I'm just going to ignore them. Okay, what is the message you're giving your child? That they don't matter. Doesn't matter. You're behaving badly, so I'm not going to talk to you, right? This is not healthy. Instead, you can sit with them and let them whine, right? That's giving them support and comfort, and helping them feel seen. So we need to feel seen by those we love, not ignored. So that means your child comes home and you're excited to see him or her, and you say, "How was your day, honey? Uh, you want to share anything?" That's being seen. That you are a member of the family that's important. Okay, so that's seen. Okay, second one is being heard. Being heard means your opinion matters, your voice matters, what you think matters. You can speak. I might not agree with you, but I want you to speak. I want you to tell me, right? So we create safety at home to express their opinions, even if it's like something we don't agree with. Let them express, right? Because they need to feel heard. So that validates them, that gives them confidence. Okay. So we need to feel seen, we need to feel heard. And the last one is we need to feel supported. So our child comes home and says, really want to learn how to play basketball. Okay, this is being supportive. Okay, honey, so you want to take some lessons? Let's look into some lessons. Okay, that is being supported. If our children have an interest, we support them in that because that builds confidence. If we say, no, you can't do that, that doesn't build confidence. I'm gonna tell you, my brother, he's a year older than me. When we were in high school, the coach had approached him because he's a bigger guy, and the coach said, "Do you want to be on the football team?" And my brother wanted to. He was like, "Yeah, I'd love to be on the football team. It'd be awesome." My mom was like, "No, I don't want you on the football team because I don't want you to have any broken bones." So my mom stopped it. And then even to this day, when my brother talks about it, he says, "I wish that mom didn't stop me from being on the football team because then I would have been so much better about exercising and being healthy." Because he did have some weight issues in his adult life. He's totally fine now. He's been really on top of it. But the lesson is that we have to listen and support our children. So they're not carrying that hurt. Like my brother's an adult and he still has that hurt. Like they're not carrying that hurt that they weren't allowed to do things or they were discouraged from doing things that they wanted to try. Our job is to uplift and to encourage and to support what our children want to do, not implant or impose our will or what we think they should be doing, because that is not healthy. Nobody wants to be forced to do something that someone else wants them to do. Okay. So that is being supported. If you have those three things in your relationship with your children, then it's healthy. And if your children are modeling this, are seeing your modeling of that, then they are also going to attract healthy relationships. And that's what we want, right? Like when they're adults, we want them to be healthy with other people and to attract healthy people, right? Because they have been modeled to that at home. So that is so, so important. All right, parents, that is it for the questions. Thank you so much for your questions. I love answering parent questions. And as I say, you can reach out for support. I love to help parents. You can message me and follow me on Facebook. I have a YouTube channel that you can subscribe to. I'm on LinkedIn, and then I have a course and a coaching package on Teachable. So all you have to do is reach out. You got a free 30 minutes with me, and I am happy to help you with whatever parenting issue challenge that you have. I understand, and I know that I can help you. All right, parents, take care, and I will see you on the next episode. All the best. Thank you, parents, for joining the show today. I hope it was valuable and that you have some useful tools to use with your children. If this show blessed you or changed you in any way, I would appreciate a review on my podcast, or subscribe to my YouTube channel, or perhaps you could even recommend our Masterful Parenting to your family and friends. Thank you so much, parents.